Greetings everyone, Tim Anderson here, aka Renfail, and welcome to the latest Project Dramond update. Today we are wherever this map is there, yeah, Merin's Rest, but you'll notice that there are numbers around the map now. And that's because I've actually come in here and I've started placing POIs, which are used for two purposes. First and foremost, this is the map of the village known as Marin's Rest, which is serving as um, it's the location for the point and click adventure game that my brother is primarily working on in Unreal 4. But this is also part of one of the future campaigns, and so this is part of the campaign modules that we are creating for the tabletop game. So in the course of creating all of the maps, this is one of the maps that was done. And while we do have a version without the POIs, which is great for simply publicity and just to have as a cool map, we obviously need one that has POIs on it as well. Most importantly is this area. Let me move my chair out of the way here. Oops, that's the wrong one here. Wrong direction. This area right here is the prototype area that we're currently working on for later this year. You've basically got the forge, the tavern, and the general store and the bookstore right here. And that's where you're going to be spending your initial hours in the game once we get the prototype kicked out there for people to play around in. But this whole map is currently what Joey is working on because he just did this past week, which we'll be showcasing in the update that's coming this Sunday on Patreon. He's been working on the height maps and just building this entire zone out, and then we're just putting basically scene lines, consider them zone lines. But as you move from scene to scene within this game, uh, within this area, not within this game, as you move from scene to scene within this area, you'll be moving to different sections. So, for example, um, this is one section. It's one small scene with these four buildings. Then we're going to get over to. I'm going to have to move out of the way a little bit. Then you're going to go over to the yeah, I gotta figure out which way to point. That's the sheriff's building as an example. That's gonna be a scene all of itself. If you remember the way, say, Spielberg was laid out in Quest for Glory 1, or how I believe it's Davenport in King's Quest 6. Remember how those cities were laid out, and each city had, anywhere from half a dozen to a dozen scenes. That's how this village is going to be laid out as well. It's going to be, a dozen or so scenes plus interiors that you're going to be able to go wander about in and do stuff in. Anyway, these are all the POIs. Now, obviously, you're not seeing any names. There's no names or anything like that on this list. The Patreon post linked to today's video, which is the first link in the description text below. That post for patrons has all of the POIs listed out in a document format, so you can go in there. It's also got the 8K version of this map, so you can go in there and download the 8K version of the map as well as get the POI list, which is included in the campaign module that this particular campaign takes place in. So if you want to get all that stuff, check the link below and pick up a subscription and get all the stuff downloaded so you have access to it for your roleplay fun. In the meantime, we're moving full steam ahead with all the other stuff we got going on. We'll have more maps available next week for Parthona, for the campaign that's going off in Parthona. We got a tavern map, some other exterior maps, and then I'm currently going to be working on soon. I'm going to be working on the sewer maps and some other stuff for that. In the meantime, I'm working on Chapter 4 of the book this week. Chapter 2 will be published on Tuesday, which will be the 14th, no, excuse me, 15th. I looked at the calendar wrong. 15th of July, so in 2 days, chapter 2 of book 1 goes live on here on Patreon. And YouTube, I'll be doing a little snippet reading, a little excerpt reading, but for those of you who want to read the full chapter, you'll want to head over to Patreon and go there so you can continue to the story from last week when we published chapter 1 and introduced you to several of the main characters of the book. So stay tuned for all that stuff. In the meantime, if you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you get updates for all the content that I create here on YouTube, and don't forget to also check out the playlist here for Project Dramond. There's I think 70-ish videos now, just as many posts over on Patreon. So for those of you who want to dive in, there's a plethora of information as we've documented this process since we kicked everything off on March 1st. Thanks so much. I will see everybody on Thursday with the next chapter in the book.